Hello everyone, welcome to Mathematical Method Unit 1. This video will focus on 4a. The learning intention is to sketch the hyperbola. The successful criteria is that I know the basic graph of hyperbola, which is the graph of y equal to 1 over x. And I know how to identify the asymptote of the different hyperbolas, okay? And then we'll talk about the asymptote a little bit later. I also know how the value of a from the graph, from the rule, okay, this is the rule of the hyperbola will affect the hyperbola graph, okay. Coming back to our notes. Okay, so we know y equal to x to the power of -1 is equal to 1 over x, okay. So the graph for y equal to 1 over x is over here, okay. And then this graph of y equal to 1 over x is called hyperbola. This is the very basic graph of y hyperbola. And as you can see, in our Cartesian plan we have 4 quadrants: first, second, third, and fourth. And the hyperbola, the basic of hyperbola graph is on the first and third quadrant of the Cartesian plan, okay. And then you will see of these two different curves, they are approaching to x-axis and y-axis, and these two lines that the graphs that are trying to approach, which is called asymptote, okay. So the asymptote over here, they are the two lines that associated with the graph that helps to describe the shape. Or in another way, I could say asymptote is a line that a curve is trying to approach, but it never reaches. Okay, so you see here, x and y axis, these are the two asymptotes of the hyperbola. These two curves, they are trying to approach to the x and y axis, but they will never reach, okay. I'm gonna leave this part for you to read by yourself so that I can make the video a little bit shorter, okay. So let's move on. This part I want you to read by yourself as well, but it is important, okay. So please give yourself a little bit of time to read it, all right. What I want to do now over here is, if you look at the right hand side of the screen, I give you a few steps for drawing a hyperbola, okay. Step 1, you need to know how to identify h and k. I know you probably learned quadratic h and k will be the turning point of your quadratic. Over here in hyperbola, h and k, these two letters will help you determine the two asymptotes, okay. So x is equal to h, which will be your vertical asymptote. Y is equal to k, which will be your horizontal asymptote, okay. And then I'm gonna use one example to help you understand these steps, okay. So coming back to the notes, example 1, ask you the question. Example 1 asks you to sketch the graph y equal to 2 over x plus 1 minus 3, okay. And on the top above this question, you will see this is the general rules for hyperbolas, okay. So now step 1, identify h and k. So let me write this form over here: y equal to a over x minus h plus k. So compare the general form and our rule that given by example 1. So I can rearrange. Before we identify h and k, you need to rearrange your the rule to make them look exactly like the general form of the hyperbola. Okay, so now I can rewrite this one into y equal to 2 over x. Alright, so you see here on your general form it is minus, so I'm gonna write 1 minus, but I don't want to change the value of the expression, so I need to say x minus minus 1. So in this way, x minus minus 1 still equal to x plus 1, so it doesn't change the rule that's given by the example 1. Okay, and then I continue minus 3. So in this way I can compare this with my general form, so I know h is equal to -1, k is equal to -3. Okay, so now using step 1 to help you, k equal to -3, so the asymptote will be x equal to h, which is equal to -1. This is gonna be my vertical asymptote, and y equal to k, which is equal to -3. In this case, it's gonna be my horizontal asymptote. Alright, so now we can start to draw the Cartesian plan. Let me draw x and y. So this is gonna be my x-axis and my y-axis. Axis, and then x is equal to -1. This will be my vertical axis, vertical asymptote. So 1, x is equal to -1, so gonna be on over here. X is equal to -1, and it is vertical asymptote. Okay, so this is my vertical asymptote, and y equal to k equal to -3. This is gonna be my horizontal. So let's find y equal to -3. So y equal to -1, y equal to -3, y equal to y equal to -2, y equal to -3. So this is gonna be my horizontal asymptote, y equal to -3. Alright, and then now step 2, identify the location of the hyperbola. Okay, so which is we're gonna based on the value of a. So on your general form, and you can see a is on the top of the fraction, which is on the numerator, and in the equation that we given on example 1, your value of a apparently gonna be 2. Okay, so you can write this down, a is equal to 2. Okay, and now if a is equal to 2 and this is larger than 0, okay, so which means a is positive. And if you look at the right hand side, if a larger than 0, graph gonna be as the shape of y equal to 1 over x. And we know for general quadrant, for general parabola, the graph over here, a general parabola is on the first and the third quadrant. Okay, so we know the shape gonna look similar like that, but since we changed our asymptote, okay, so which means we changed the two lines that the hyperbola they are trying to approach. Okay, so it's not x and y axis anymore, it is x equal to -1 and y equal to -3. These are the two lines that my hyperbola are trying to approach, and I know because a is larger than 0, it's positive, so it's gonna be still on first and third quadrant. So I can roughly draw a hyperbola and make them trying to approach my two asymptote. Okay, so roughly your graph gonna be look like that in yellow. When you finish that, this is just the draft hyperbola graph for the given rule, and to make it more accurate, we need to find on the right hand side of the screen, you see step 3, we need to find x and y intercept if needed. Okay, what does it mean if needed? So coming back to the graph, you see the yellow part. The yellow part, one of the curve is on the first quadrant, and another one is on the third quadrant. And then you can see the curve on the third quadrant, it doesn't intersect with x and y axis, so there's no x and y intercept for the curve on the third quadrant. But if you look at the curve on first quadrant, you can see it intersect with x-axis and y-axis, so which is over here and here. Okay, so let me use another different color, maybe black, here and here. Okay, so we do know that we will have x and y intercepts. So that tells us, yes, we need to calculate x and y intercepts. So coming to step 3, so this is going to be similar. To find x-intercept, we let y equal to 0. Okay, so we let y equal to 0. So since our equation is equal y equal to 2 over x plus 1 minus 3, so we're gonna let y equal to 0, and the rest of the equation could be the same, and then we just calculate x. Okay, so we do plus 3 on both sides, that gives me 3 equal to 2 over x plus 1, and then and I can times x plus 1 on both sides. Okay, so that cancelled out, then that will give me 3 times x plus 1 equal to 2, and expand the bracket, 3x plus 3 equal to 2, and then eventually we will know x is equal to x will be equal to 1 over 3. Negative 1 over 3. Okay, and then so I know my x-intercept gonna be negative 1 over 3 and 0. Okay, in the same way, to find y-intercept, I'm gonna let x is equal to 0. Okay, so then y will be equal to 2 over x plus 1 will be equal to 0 plus 1 minus 3, and then y will be equal to negative 1, and then so my y-intercept will be 0, negative 1. Okay, so now we can go back to label this. So this will be my negative 1 over 3, 0, my x-intercept. My y-intercept will be 0, negative 1. Okay, so this is how you draw a hyperbola. Okay, let's do one more question. Example 2. Okay, we just follow the steps. Let me write the general form of the hyperbola first. Y equal to a over x minus h plus k. Okay, so now step 1, identify h and k. So we know h is equal to h. Now h is equal to 1 over here. So that's gonna be my vertical asymptote. And y is equal to k. Okay, so k is equal to negative 3. That will be my horizontal asymptote. Okay, and then so now we can start to draw the graph. Start to draw the graph. This is my y-axis, x-axis. Okay, and then so draw the asymptote. X is equal to 1 vertical. So x is equal to 1. That will be my vertical asymptote. And y equal to negative 3 horizontal asymptote. So 1, 2, 3, negative 3. So this will be my horizontal y equal to negative 3 and interval. Okay, so label them. Y is equal to negative 3, x is equal to positive 1. Okay, so now we finished step 1. Let's do step 2. Step 2, identify the location of hyperbola based on the value of a. Okay, so we know a over here is equal to negative 2. Okay, so now a equal to negative 2. Okay, what does it mean over here? A equal to negative 2. It is smaller than 0, which means this is negative. A negative value of a. Okay, this will the one that affect the shape of the graph and the location of your graph. Okay, so it gonna make your graph. It will make your graph reflected in the x-axis. Okay, what does it mean? Let me move this a little bit down. So what does it mean? Reflected. Okay, so now we know a hyperbola is on the first and third quadrant. Since we have a value of a that is smaller than 0, okay, so it will make your graph reflected in the axis. Okay, so here is your x-axis, so see that as a mirror, so your graph gonna reflect it on it to the other side. Okay, so then it will become the one that I show you in green. Okay, so the graph will reflect it in the axis, then the location of your hyperbola change to the second and fourth quadrant. Okay, so in the same way, coming back to the question, that's why since you have a value of a equal to negative 2, it's smaller than 0, so it will reflect your graph in the axis, and then it will be on the second and fourth quadrant. So we know roughly will be like this now. Okay, so will be look like that in the green, in the second and fourth quadrant. Okay, now again we know there's one x-intercept, there's one y-intercept, so we just need to calculate where exactly they are. So coming to the step 3, to find x-intercept, I let y equal to 0. Okay, so now 0 equal to negative 2 over x minus 1 minus 3. Okay, so now we just need to solve it. Plus 3 on both sides give me 3 over 3 equal to negative 2 x minus 1, and we're gonna times x minus 1 on both sides. Okay, so the equation will become, so x minus 1 cancel out, will give me 3 times x minus 1 equal to negative 2, expand the bracket, so that give me 3x minus 3 equal to negative 2, and solve out, x will be equal to negative 1 over 3. Okay, so therefore my x-intercept will be negative 1 over 3, 0. Okay, in the same way, to find y-intercept, net x is equal to 0. Okay, so now y will be equal to negative 2 over x minus 1, x is equal to 0, so will be 0 minus 1 minus 3. Y will be equal to negative 1. So I know my y-intercept will be 0, negative 1. Okay, so now, so let's just make it more accurate, so I can just redraw this, so I can take away this graph. Oops. Redraw this graph. Okay, so I know one of my x-intercept is negative 1 over 3, 0. Okay, so negative 1 over 3, 0 is roughly over here, and y-intercept is 0, negative 1, 0, negative 1. So now I know the curve will pass these 2 points, and this will be my graph. Okay, so as a summary, we know this, just keep remember this is the form, and to draw a hyperbola, your step 1 is always gonna identify h and k. So x equal to h, that will be your vertical asymptote, and y equal to k, that will be your horizontal asymptote. When you're trying to identify h and k, always make sure you rearrange your equation that you have minus in front of the value of h, so that you can determine the correct value of h. Okay, and then step 2, and then the value of a, whether it's positive or negative, will determine where the two curves, which two quadrant that you your two curves of the hyperbola were located. If it's a larger than 0, it will just like the basic graph of the hyperbola, that on the first and the third quadrant. If a is smaller than 0, that will reflect your graph in the x-axis and make your graph located on the second and fourth quadrant. Okay, and then make sure you calculate the x and y intercept and then label them. Oh, talking about that, I forgot to label them on my graph. Okay, so coming back to my graph, and then I know this will be my negative 1 over 3, 0, and this will be my 0, -1. Okay, label them, and then thanks for listening.